Joe, is this that movie where the guy in a train wants to trade murders?
No, that's Strangers on a Train.
Oh, right. So not the one with the hooker who goes back to high school.
That's Strangers with Candy.
Okay. So The Stranger then. Not the Billy Joel song, but the movie?
Well, The Stranger, that's the one where a Nazi hides out in Connecticut after the war.
I thought The Stranger was the one where a guy shoots someone after his mom's funeral.
That is The Stranger.
But I said The Stranger.
And I gave you The Stranger, 2 of them.
2? There's 2 strangers?
One's a Nazi, the other is a grieving guy with a gun.
These strangers really get around.
Not as much as you do.
I wish. So, which stranger are we talking about?
Neither. We're talking about Stranger Than Fiction.
Is there a train?
No train, there is a bus.
Good. As long as they're going somewhere.
Welcome to Does This Still Work? The podcast that looks at all and asks, does this still work? I'm Joe Dixon.
And I'm George Romacka. And today we're discussing Stranger Than Fiction from 2006 and some historical context. First, podcasty stuff. We're excited to announce that we've joined the Creator Accountability Network. CAN is a nonprofit dedicated to reducing harassment and abuse through ethical education and a system of restorative accountability. We joined because we care about the safety and well-being of our community members. If you feel our behavior or content has harmed someone, please report it to CAN, either via the reporting form on their website, creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org, or via their hotline at 617-249-4255. They'll help us make it right and avoid repeating that mistake in the future. CAN also needs volunteers from our communities to help with their work, so if you have skills you think would be helpful, or time and a desire to help, please visit their website to find out how you can volunteer. Most importantly, get the word out to other creators who you think would be interested in getting credentialed. Help us build safer communities together. You can reach us at ttswpod@gmail.com, on Facebook, Letterboxd, and our YouTube channel. Joe is on Blue Sky at joedixon.bsky.social. Please tell your friends about us. Even the ones whose lives are so boring that the most interesting thing about them will be how they die. And leave 5-star ratings everywhere. You can pick what we watch and get extra per episode content by funding us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month at patreon.com/dtswpod, just like our TV Guide patron Aaron did by being such a patron. Aaron, this is what you requested. This is your patron reward, and we thank you for your support.
Thank you, Aaron. Now, George, let's go back to 2006.
And that's the way it was.
If there's a theme to this movie, it's literature. I kind of expected you to push back on that. I don't know why.
Sure.
Okay. One of the best-selling books in the 2000s was Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code. In 2006, he successfully defended against a plagiarism lawsuit brought by 2 guys who wrote The Holy Blood and the Holy Grail in 1982 about a hypothesis that Jesus married Mary Magdalene. In his ruling, Judge Peter Smith said,
"It would be quite wrong if fictional writers were to have their writings poured over in the way DVC, Da Vinci Code, has been poured over in this case by authors of pretend historical books to make an allegation of infringement of copyright."
What stuck out to me in this case is that Random House is the publisher for both books.
Oh, my goodness.
So they really won out because the extra press led to increased sales for both.
Well, you think it's the same publisher. You think they would have noticed, hey, didn't we publish a book like this before? It seemed very similar.
Well, the thing is, that one was supposed to be like a nonfiction proposing of a hypothesis. The Da Vinci Code is fiction.
Pure fiction. Okay.
It's not pretending to be fact.
Yes, okay.
Now, the 2006 Nobel Prize in Literature went to Orhan Pamuk. He's from Turkey.
That's a very Turkish name, so it makes sense.
Yep. According to the Nobel Prize website, he won it because his novels are, quote, characterized by the search for identity in the borderland between Western and Eastern values, an attempt to understand differences and similarities, and an ambivalent yearning for both modern and old traditions.
I have never heard of this man, unfortunately. I know it doesn't say much for me, and I'd like to read, but I've never heard of him.
Me neither, but enough people did that he won a Nobel Prize.
Yep.
His last novel before that award was Kar, spelled K-A-R. According to Wikipedia, it follows Ka, an expatriate Turkish poet, as he wanders around the snowy Kars and gets caught up in the middle of aimless Islamists, MPs, headscarf advocates, secularists, and a number of factions who die and kill in the name of highly contradictory ideals.
Is this a comedy?
I don't know, but it kind of sounds like it, doesn't it? Like Keystone Cops, but with terrorists.
Yes.
Keystone Qaeda.
Thank you.
The best-selling novel in 2006, according to New York Times, was Mary Mary by James Patterson. It's one of Patterson's series featuring the character Alex Cross, a black DC cop that has spawned 3 movies: Kiss the Girls from 1997, Along Came a Spider in 2001, and Alex Cross in 2012.
You know, I've never read a James Patterson novel.
Me neither, but I knew he existed, which is more than I could say for Mr. Pamuk.
Yes, Mr. Pamuk, unfortunately, I've never even heard of. And he won a Nobel Prize, so it doesn't say much for either of us, I guess. But James Patterson, who has not won a Nobel Prize, we have heard of. But to be fair, he had 3 movies based on his book, so.
Right. And according to the New York Times, the Da Vinci Code was the 3rd best-selling book in 2006.
Yeah, people really love the idea that there's some secret messages, and in this case, it's Da Vinci's writing, right? Of the Da Vinci Code, yeah. But people think the secret writing in the Bible, the secret writing in this. It's so weird. If there's a conspiracy, why would I have secret writing anywhere? It's a conspiracy. I don't want people to know about it. Why would I leave clues every place?
Good question, Joe. That's almost as good a question as why the hell would aliens use something that has always been a hoax perpetuated by humans as their navigational markers?
Oh, God. Let's not revisit that movie. That is Signs, by the way, is referencing, yes. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know. Okay, George, let's talk about Stranger Than Fiction.
All right. This was directed by Mark Forster, and I've seen his work in Monsters Ball and Quantum of Solace, and written by Zach Helm. We haven't seen his shit in anything.
Although, interesting enough, and you probably don't know this, it was back in the 60s when James Bond first came out and there were tons of parodies. There was a character called Matt Helm, and he was a parody of James Bond.
Ah.
Yeah, just a little history, I know.
Okay. Blurbs. IMDb says IRS auditor Harold Crick suddenly finds his mundane Chicago life to be the subject of narration only he can hear. Narration that begins to affect his entire existence, from his work to his love life to his death.
Sure. I have so many questions, but we'll get into it.
YouTube, as usual, says a lot. Everybody knows that your life is a story. But what if a story was your life? Harold Crick is your average IRS agent. Monotonous, boring, and repetitive.
Wow, what an insult to IRS agents.
Yeah.
I'll just interject real quick this story here. All right. I didn't really know this comic that well, but he told the story on stage of him being audited, and he had to go into the office, to the IRS office to go over his audit. And he met the IRS agent, and the guy was dressed in African, he was black, dressed in an African outfit, very flashy African clothing, I guess on dashiki or whatever. Very nice looking man, older man, and he starts hitting on him. So I don't think that guy was particularly monotonous, boring, or repetitive.
Unprofessional, yes. Those other things, no.
He did say that. I probably shouldn't have done that. And then, of course, you know what the punchline would be to that joke, right?
They ended up together?
No, that the IRS literally tried to fuck him.
Okay.
I can't believe you didn't see that coming a mile away.
Especially dressed like that. But one day, this all changes when Harold begins to hear an author inside his head narrating his life. The narrator, it is extraordinarily accurate. That's a copy and paste. Yeah. I'm reading verbatim.
Not good English.
And Harold recognizes the voice as an esteemed author he saw on TV. And skipping a bunch of shit. But when the narration reveals that he is going to die, Harold must find the author of the story and ultimately his life to convince her to change the ending of the story before it is too late. It's a very clunkily written blurb.
Well, yeah, for a clunkily written story, as near as I can tell, but that we'll get into it.
All right. So we start with some studio logos.
Columbia produced this thing.
Yep. Mandate Pictures. I don't know that I've ever heard of them.
I prefer woman date pictures.
So the establishing shot for this is Earth, and it zooms from space all the way down to the bedroom of one Harold Crick. And the author is the narrator right now, and she is going to introduce us to him. Okay, we're just going to stop there for a second. If the premise of this movie is that she is writing this guy's life, how does he have a life if his story starts now? How did he get the job at the IRS in the real world that they both live in? How, if he didn't have a childhood and college and all the things that lead up to being a middle-aged man with a wristwatch in an apartment that he's paying rent for, having signed a, like...
Good questions, George. And they get even more profound as we go along, because there's a lot of that I wonder about.
Okay.
But first of all right, she's written this character who's going to be very boring. For some reason, she expects people to buy a book about someone who has a very boring life and then dies at the end. I don't know who's buying this book, but okay. We'll get into that.
I mean, there's probably more than a handful of people that would be happy to read a story about an IRS auditor dying.
I just don't think that book would sell, because it's just, as you pointed out, he has no childhood. He just begins here, and then a series of events that are not that interesting happen to him. Well, we'll get into it. Anyway, what I wanted to pick up at this point is that stupid watch, which will become relevant later in the plot. The way this character is described as this boring, typical, blah, blah, blah IRS agent, he would have an alarm clock, not a watch, doing his alarming.
Yeah, that watch, that's one of those plot devices. It's not a MacGuffin. It's the thing that is
machina.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a thing that just is whatever you need it to be to keep the plot moving along.
Sure.
So she goes on to explain how he was a man of infinite numbers, endless calculations, remarkably few words, which I kind of expected him to be mute, but that's not the case. Like he counts his brush strokes, and like this guy. They will touch on mental health topics in this in ways that are terrible. But
you think he may be on the spectrum?
If not, he at least has OCD. Like clearly has OCD.
But that word does not come up.
Nope.
Or any other form of mental illness, really. Even though we'll see later he visits a psychiatrist, for some reason she does not. Oh,
we're going to talk about her in a minute.
Yeah, she's not good at her job.
But before we get there, we got to finish introducing Harold.
Yes, let's go back to Harold Crick. This very interesting character we're supposed to read a book about.
Yep. And he is played by Will Ferrell. Mm-hmm. Both Joe and I have seen him in Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery, Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and 2 episodes of The Office.
Yes, indeedy. And I've seen him in Barbie, The Other Guys, and The Ladies' Man.
And I've seen him in Zoolander, heard him in Megamind, and heard him in the Lego Movie. And seen him in the Lego Movie, now that I think about it.
By the way, I have ever mentioned this on the show? Well, these controversy around the Spy Who Shagged Me?
Yes.
For those who don't...
Because shagged means something way, way more profane in Britain.
Yes, in UK, Australia, and all those places, they were shocked that they said shagged me. How did you Americans get away with that? And we go like, it doesn't mean the same thing here, I guess. I don't know. We're not offended.
I mean, it does. We just don't attach that same weight to it.
Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, and this part of the movie has like all kinds of geometric drawings and angles and numbers on the screen.
What did that mean? I didn't understand what they were there for.
It's just to illustrate very ham-fistedly how precisely this guy lives his life.
Okay, because it kept coming up and then suddenly disappeared and then it came again at the end credits. And
well, it disappears once he breaks out of his routine.
All right, sure, all right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so he is a very interesting man. He drinks coffee, he does his job, and then he goes to the bus every day. You think he'd own a car.
Yep.
He seems like a type who would own a car to me. I mean, he has that fancy watch. You think he'd have not a fancy car, but a what's the word? A well-maintained car.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he lives his life very much like Joe does, in solitude.
Thank you. Yes.
And they make a point to show us that. And they basically just took us through his day.
And
his typical day, which is a Tuesday.
And it's
because tomorrow is Wednesday, and it's going to be different.
Yes, and it's very important to know that he's very boring.
Yep. It's amazing how much time you can spend talking about how boring someone is. Are they really that boring if you can spend that much time talking about them?
And apparently his watch is very invested in his life.
Yes, and has a personality.
But also he has conversations with people like those two. Well, he doesn't have conversations with those two characters. They'll play a factor in his life later, but he doesn't really interact with them. But they do factor into the events at the end of the film. So is the author also writing them?
Right. And the thing is, he will interact with other characters, which means she'd have to be writing them too.
I would think, right? So are they also fiction? Is everyone fiction?
We're going to break ourselves if we get in this weed. I could forgive this movie for what it's doing right now if it followed through and actually had the balls to end the way it should have ended, but we'll get there.
Oh, I'd love to know what you think it should have ended as. But anyway, so
Harold, it's Wednesday, he woke up, and all of a sudden, he's noticing this narration. Why? Good question, Joe. Why now? Because
the plot says
I mean,
so.
She was
the script.
Yeah, she was narrating.
That should have been the scriptwriter suddenly appeared to go, hey, I'm now having these characters suddenly here. Yep,
we spend a good bunch of minutes here with him being confused that he's hearing the narration. And like this movie just roofied the fourth wall.
What I'm also confused about is, okay, so he can hear the voice. But the voice is the voice controlling him? Is the narrator controlling his actions?
No. The narrator is only describing what he's doing up until the moment where it hypothesizes in third person, which is what fucks him up. Like, cause he's...
Okay, now here's a point. There's a scene in the movie where he's at a bus stop. The bus will play an important factor at the end of the movie. He's talking to a woman at that bus stop. Is that woman written by the author?
Right. That's what we're asking. If he has to interact with human beings, every one of them would have to be written, or this movie just doesn't make sense.
And also, there are points where she clearly must write, because he's doing stuff that she knows is happening. He hasn't told her.
Right.
He does not mention being with a certain person in their bed, and yet she seems to know they're in bed together.
Hey.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying who.
Let's not get ahead of it. Like we can point that shit out at the time, but we do. So here's where I'm gonna try and play movies advocate.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. In order to watch any movie, you have to suspend disbelief.
Okay.
You have to buy into the world that you're watching.
Sure. Unless you find the world uninteresting.
It's not that the thing is, this movie is not, this world isn't not interesting. It's nonsensical.
Well, speak for yourself.
But it's nonsensical in ways that aren't the kinds of nonsensical we are used to seeing. We are used to seeing magic and science fiction and even superhero or ordinary, everyman hero. Like, we see a lot of different kinds of nonsensical. This fucking the fourth wall nonsensical is different nonsensical.
But for me, the fact that look, you're right. We've seen a lot of movies. In some movies, it's fantastical nonsense, but I'm into it. I'm not questioning everything that's happening because I'm into the characters and stories. I'm watching this, and the moment I'm asking questions means I'm not that into it. Otherwise, I wouldn't be thinking about this, or at least I wouldn't be thinking about it until you and I are doing the review. I'm thinking about this as I'm watching the movie.
Yeah. So. But again, let's try to suspend our disbelief some, because otherwise this episode's never going to end. Because it is an infinite loop of why in this movie.
Indeed. I agree. So anyway, we see him in his office, and his friends or his co-workers are always asking about mathematical numbers.
They ask him to do math problems in his head, and he can normally, except now he gives a wrong number, and then listens to the narrator tell him that he gave a wrong number, and then turns around and gives them the right number instead.
By the way, is any of this supposed to be funny?
Yes.
Okay. Because to be blunt, I wasn't sure.
Me neither.
We move to a scene where he is in his filing office. Well, not his filing office, the file room, I guess, where all the IRS agents have files. And huge room. Looks almost futuristic, actually.
I mean, it only looks that way because everything is white.
And the angle of the shot. But still, it looks...
Yeah, I mean, but it's made to look like an endless room of, file boxes with folders of people and their finances on the shelves. It's that. And his buddy comes and talks to him.
His buddy and coworker, yes.
His buddy and coworker, Dave.
Dave is played by Tony Hale. And I've seen him in Veep, the TV show, and I've seen him in the movie Love, Simon.
Yeah, and he's like trying to joke about, I just found out this freaking asshole was trying to use a jet ski as business expense. Haha. And Harold is just sort of trying to explain what's going on with him.
Yeah, and his friend's like, what is the matter with you, buddy?
What the hell is going on? That doesn't make any sense. And the author is talking about how, like, the sound of the filing being put away sounded like an endless ocean. And Harold's like, it kind of does, but who the fuck is saying that?
Right. And his coworker and friend, rather than saying, maybe you need to see a therapist, which I guess he eventually does anyway, instead goes, oh, that's kind of weird. Maybe you should take this bakery job, which, wait a minute. So his friend is the one who is the incited incident for his... So did the author not do that?
No, I don't. Good question, Joe.
That just occurred to me. I didn't even realize that point. Wait a minute. This happens to him, but she's narrating his life, so I can't, never mind. Just, let's go, move on. Anyway, they chat a bit. And this, for some reason, a character who doesn't really play a factor in this movie comes in and stomps her shoes very loudly. I thought that was going to play a factor for some reason, but didn't mean anything.
So, yeah, he hands her hands him the file for a baker.
Right. Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure, I've never been an IRS agent in either of you, but I'm going to guess they get more than just one case. They do more than just one audit.
I mean, he does like 7.343 audits a day or some shit.
But apparently the only one he's auditing is this lady today.
Well, that's because we are out of the normal boringness.
I guess. Also, I know in previous movies, in both Claudine and Blue Collar, an official working for the government, in one case welfare and the other may have also been welfare actually, comes to the house of people. But I'm fairly certain, I don't know what it was like in this. Both these films from the 70s, and which maybe that was accurate then, but I'm pretty certain by 2006, they were not coming to visit you. You were coming to visit them. If there was an issue, you came to the office. You came to the IRS office. The IRS does not come to you.
Yeah, I don't know, Joe. I can't vouch.
Well, I have been audited. And even though I didn't have to come in, fortunately, I just got letters and phone calls. But still, I don't think they visit you. And for the obvious reason we'll see later when he goes to what happens when he goes into the bakery.
Right. Well, guess what, Joe? He's at the bakery now.
Yes.
And here we meet the baker, Anna Pascal. Don't get me started on whether or not that last name is a reference to Pascal's wager of any kind. She's played by Maggie Gyllenhaal, who we've seen in Away We Go, and recently, Mona Lisa Smile.
Yes.
Joe and I have both seen her in Donnie Darko and The Dark Knight.
And I've seen her in Frank and Adaptation.
So she is not happy to be audited.
Which you would think she would know that's going to happen since she does not pay. She knowingly doesn't pay tax.
It turns out she deliberately underpays by 22% as a fuck you to the government, which right now I get it more than I normally would.
But then it really begs the question, what does she do to not have elected representatives who vote the way or pick because she's upset about the Pentagon or whatever. Does she do anything to stop people like that from coming into office? No,
we don't see that she campaigns. We don't see that she does leafleting. She doesn't go canvassing. She doesn't run the phone. All she does is complain.
Yes.
And not pay taxes. Which puts her on par with, every asshole that didn't vote in order to send a message.
Agreed.
So fuck this character.
Well, he certainly wants to do that.
Well, yeah. And the narrator, hijacks his train of thought to make us aware of how much he is checking Anna Pascal out.
Yeah, which is, I don't know what to make of that. Because I guess these are, she can read his thoughts, I guess. So she writes them. But here's the thing. He finds her attractive. I can believe that. Sure. But why would she find, and we'll find later that she finds him attractive. I'm not quite sure where that comes from. If you can help me with that.
Because the script said so.
So says,
that is a big because the script said so.
Because they're telling me how boring he is. So I don't know what okay. Anyway, she says a whole bunch of
Okay, hold on a second.
She
does say a whole bunch of shit, but she does make one point that it's a point, but it's also not a point.
Okay, let's hear it.
Miss Pascal, what you're describing is anarchy. Are you an anarchist?
You mean, am I a member?
An anarchist group, yes.
Anarchists have a group?
I believe so, sure.
They assemble?
I don't know.
Wouldn't that completely defeat the purpose?
No, it wouldn't.
Are you suggesting this movie doesn't know what anarchy means?
I'm suggesting at a minimum this character doesn't know what anarchy means.
Well, both characters don't know what anarchy means. Why don't you explain it for us, George?
No. No, anarchy means you trust people to look out for and make decisions for their own best interests and to form their own communities. That the thing is, anarchy doesn't mean sovereign citizen. It doesn't mean you don't rely on or collaborate with others. It means you, not a government, determine the terms of that cooperation.
Yeah, it's really weird that people think anarchy means craziness and people not collectively working together, since anarchists very much were a big thing in the 1920s and 30s, and, you know, threw a couple of bombs here and there, and they very much worked together on that. So
yeah.
There's a whole history of anarchy in this country that has nothing to do with just a bunch of lunatics running around. I mean, there was a cohesive political reason for what they were doing, whether you agree with it or not.
Yep.
But I think, to be fair to the author, the literal author, the screenwriter, although maybe not, because I don't know if that's really what they had in mind. But this character is kind of full of shit and just doesn't want to pay her taxes. Yeah. So she comes up with this bullshit reasoning, but it really does no other action to affect the change. So what is the point?
Right.
Other than she has a business, she doesn't want to pay to have the roads fixed. Although she says, oh, yes, I want the roads fixed. Well, you're not paying taxes, so how is that happening?
Yep. And at this moment, Anna Pascal realizes that he's staring at her tits.
Yes. Oh, also, by the way, and I want to revisit something we were bringing up before. The reason he would not go visit her is precisely, at least by the logic of this film anyway, he wouldn't go visit her because, again, she says, taxman, and all the people in the cafe, rather than just ignoring her, go up, ooh, taxman, boo, boo, boo. Everybody hates the taxman. Yep. That's why the IRS probably would not go to this place and meet her in person. They would have her come to him. Even if in real life that's the case, in this reality of this movie, they would definitely have her come in.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he has a meeting with her, looks at her tits, apologizes, then he goes out and starts screaming at the voice because the voice keeps narrating, knowing what's his thoughts or whatever. And then we cut to who?
To Karen Eiffel. This is the author that is writing and narrating. She's played by Emma Thompson.
And I've seen her in years and years. That was a TV movie. I also seen her in Love Actually and In the Name of the Father.
And I've seen her in 3 Harry Potter movies and I Am Legend.
You're not going to name the movies?
Nope. The less press I can give that franchise.
Oh, okay. Right. Sorry. Forgot.
So she is, what we will find out, imagining herself on a ledge of a roof and committing suicide. She's not actually doing that.
And then we cut to 2 characters who again will be revisited: a boy on a bike and a black woman getting water sprayed on her.
Yeah,
that spray part won't mean anything, but we'll see her again.
No, but it's interesting that because I walk from Port Authority bus terminal to work 5 days a week, and there's a guy outside near the Port Authority who's always spraying off the sidewalk, and I say hi to him. He stops spraying. As I walk by, he says hi back.
Sure, that's the way it usually works, but not in this movie.
Yeah, not in this movie. Everyone's an asshole because they're in a city, and they have to be assholes because they live in a city.
You know what city this is?
Chicago.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that. I had to look it up. I did not recognize it.
So, she commits suicide, and then we jump to her apartment where she is imagining this all happening as she's standing on her table.
Mm-hmm. Like a real author, because real authors, this is the way real authors work.
Yep. And she is interrupted in her reverie by Penny Escher.
Well, and it's Queen Latifah. And we both know Queen Latifah from the movie Brown Sugar for the podcast. And we both seen her, George and I, also in Chicago. And I've seen her in Hustle, Set It Off, Living Single, the TV show, House Party 2, and Juggle Fever.
And I saw her in the music video for Naughty by Nature's OPP.
You know me.
You down with it?
Yeah, not really.
Nick.
I haven't been down in quite some time. I'm an old man.
So, I have a question, Joe.
Yes?
How the fuck did Penny get into this apartment?
Excellent question, George.
Okay.
I have a question for you. Why is Penny in this movie? Because she really doesn't do much.
She is a machina of some kind.
She's there for the author to have someone to talk to, basically.
Right. Because if the author was trying to get over her own writer's block in whatever way she has for 11 other books she's written, the movie would be too long. So they have somebody to come in and prod her along by being the magical black lady who can convince white people to do their jobs.
That's interesting. I did not think of her as a magical black woman. Because she really doesn't help.
It's a diet. It's a diet.
It's a diet
magical black woman. Like it's a watered down. Yeah.
A Diet Pepsis of magical Negroes.
Yeah.
Anyway, they have this really ridiculous conversation.
Yeah.
Where Queen Latifah, I'm just going to call it Queen Latifah, who's been hired by the publishing company to be the assistant to this woman. She doesn't know she's coming for some reason, which is weird.
Well, the phone never rings and she doesn't answer letters. That doesn't mean she doesn't read them, so I don't fucking know why either.
Anyway, so she somehow gets into the building and is chatting with her. Oh, you need to finish writing. I don't know where I'm going to write it, blah, 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 blah. And they have a nice back and forth. Well, by nice, I mean, I was being polite, actually. It's just nothing. Poor Emma Thompson. Poor Queen Latifah. They're actually good actors, but they have nothing to work with here.
What do you think about leaping off a building?
I don't think about leaping off a building.
Yes, you do.
No. Trying to think of nice things.
Everyone thinks about leaping off a building.
Well, I certainly don't think about leaping off of a building.
You fucking do now. Because the best way to get somebody to think about a thing is to just say it out loud. Now you're thinking about it. And then an hour from now, or when you go home tonight, this conversation is going to come back up because you said, I don't think about that. Your brain is going to hijack you and be like, now you're going to fucking think about it.
Let's get into the author real quick. Emma Thompson. Okay. I'm just going to call her Emma Thompson. I'm calling everybody by their real names. Emma is having writer's block, blah, blah, blah. She can't think, and she stands on the table for some reason to help her write. Okay. Of the other movies we've seen of writers, what level would you put her?
About 4 feet.
No, I mean, where would you say she's the least realistic or most realistic in terms of what you think how writers work? Because this is not Misery here. I think Misery was a more accurate idea of a writer than the bullshit that's going on in this movie with this lady.
Yeah, I don't think that she's a realistic author. No.
I think her process is what, I don't want to get ahead of us, but she does some things for her process of writing that makes no sense. And I'm still frustrated by, I know she says what the book is about when they say it in the movie, but what I see is a book about a guy, boring guy who dies at the end. That's not a good book. That's not an interesting book. That's not a masterpiece, what they'll say this is.
Okay. Yep.
Anyway, Queen Latifah's...
So, yeah, they go, Queen Latifah's like, I've never had to, like, I have helped dozens of authors get out of their writer's block, and I've never had to ask, the publishing company for an extension. So, pin in that, because she'll be made to be a liar later.
But also, what does she do to help the writers write? Because as near as I can tell, all she seems to do is have a back and forth with this lady, but I don't see her do anything to get her to write.
She exists while black.
Is that why you want to do more writing? Is that how I influence you just by being black? That's what you want to be called, a writer, George? My very existence has forced you to write. My friend is a black man I've known for over 10 years. I'm going to write now.
If you weren't you, this podcast wouldn't exist.
Oh my God, that is true.
You pushed me to do my part to get this thing rolling.
I am a real life magical Negro. Oh no.
You may be, Joe. You may be.
I had no idea.
I mean, we have a much deeper and more nuanced history than these two characters do.
Oh, 100%. Although, to be fair, they're not supposed to be friends.
No, they're not.
Anyway, back to Will Ferrell.
So he goes to HR, and the HR guy is a hippie, which is never the case.
Never. Also, it's a guy. I don't know how much HR you've been to, but every HR I've seen, it's a woman.
I mean, we see in The Office, Toby is HR.
Again, I repeat, in real life, every HR thing is a woman.
And he's like, I shouldn't do this, but I'll hug you.
Yeah, also the HR guy, which I kind of enjoyed the dialogue there where she's narrating, saying, this man is an idiot, which I thought was kind of funny. But yeah, so the reason he's at HR, just to be clear, in case we glossed over or missed out, is that he's saying all this weird shit to everybody in the office, well, mostly to his friend Tony Hale. And so they decided to send him to the HR department, which makes sense. Because what he's doing is...
Well, he asks. He like, contacts HR.
Oh, does he? Oh, I missed that. I thought he was required to go to HR.
Nope.
Why does he go to HR? Then I'm confused.
Because he doesn't know how to look for a therapist, so his first stop is HR.
Oh, okay. Well, I missed that. I thought he found the therapist on his own. I didn't realize it was an HR thing. All right, well, whatever. So I'm mistaken on that. But anyway, the HR guy is supposed to be hilarious because, yes, he hugs him and he's a hippie, and which, of course, is never true. By the way, do you know what the HR person actual job is?
To protect the company.
100%, yeah. Which is never really accurately portrayed in movies and TV. The HR person is not there to help you. They are not your friend.
All right. Now we get to Chekhov's moment. He's waiting for the bus or something. Yeah, he's waiting for the bus home. And his watch goes fucking berserk and then stops.
Right, because the bus is trying to... Sorry, the bus. The bus is important, but that's later. The watch is trying to communicate with him, and the only way
trying to say, hey, there's that baker across the street, that hot one. Hey, you should look at her. And he's like, fuck you, watch. I don't want to do that.
Well, he doesn't see her. He's looking at the watch. Yeah, and the watch is trying to...
Right, but the watch sees her.
Yes, for some reason.
And then it gives up the ghost. So he asks around, hey, does anybody have the time? So he sets the watch to the time that he is given. Pin in that.
Yes, that's going to come back later as well.
Because this is also where the movie decides we need to move the plot along a little bit more.
6:18.
Thus, Harold's watch thrust him into the immitigable path of fate. Little did he know that this simple, seemingly innocuous act would result in his imminent death.
What? That's where it jumps the shark for him, and he's like, that's not a thought I would think about the me.
Well, he already knows there's a narrator before this, but yes.
Right, but that's like way third person talking about his imminent death.
Yes. But the question I have here is why, and look, I'm an atheist, you're an atheist, we both don't believe in God. However, if he's hearing a voice, this discombobulated voice in the sky, because that's where he seems to think it's coming from, he's looking at the sky, it's weird that he never thinks it's religion. He never goes to a church or a pastor or anything, which I guess I should be grateful for, but at the same time...
Yeah, I mean, that because the movie could have absolutely gone there if it wanted.
It would have made a certain amount of sense, though, don't you think?
It would have, but there's also no indication anywhere else in his life that he holds any kind of belief in deities or anything.
100%, but still, I'm hearing voices, and I think someone's in the sky, and I don't think I'm having a mental breakdown, so why...
But it's also a woman's voice.
Oh, so it couldn't be God. Oh, is that what you're saying? Okay. That's why he doesn't assume.
Maybe.
It's a broad voice, so I know it can't be God.
I'm just calling him like I see him, Joe.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Okay, so he goes to see an actual psychiatrist.
Yes.
And this psychiatrist is Dr. Middig-Leffer, played by Linda Hunt.
It deserves better. Anyway, Linda Hunt, yes. I saw her in Silverado.
And I've seen her in Popeye, going way back for that one. I should put that on the list.
Oh, we both seen her in Maverick.
Yeah. And I've seen her in Kindergarten Cop, Pocahontas, and Solo, a Star Wars story. So he goes to see this psychiatrist.
I'm afraid what you're describing is schizophrenia.
Fuck you!
Why?
Not that hearing voices can't be a symptom of schizophrenia. I have a diagnosis of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. That required me to bring a form home for my wife to fill out about me. The DSM has diagnostic criteria for diagnosing things like schizophrenia that are more than I hear voices.
Oh, sure.
So this psychiatrist pulling that diagnosis out to move the plot along is an act of medical malfeasance.
Although, and you can cut this out if this is too personal. Why did you have to take the form to your wife?
Because if I was a child, I'd be bringing it home to my mother.
But why is someone else filling out this form?
And I would be bringing it home to and also bring one to my school. Because ADHD is often about behaviors that you don't think of as weird in any way.
Oh, okay. So
but having somebody else say no, it's like he's driven by a motor.
Gotcha. Okay.
Right? That's diagnostically significant.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, she's like, I think you're schizophrenic, but it's an author. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it's not a mental health thing. Maybe you should talk to a literary professor.
Which is a wild thing for her to pull out of her ass. First schizophrenic, and then, all right, well, you don't want schizophrenia? Fine, here's this other answer. Go see a professor of literature. And he meets Professor Jules Hilbert, played by Dustin Hoffman. For the show, we've seen him in The Graduate, Midnight Cowboy, and Hook. And George and I have both seen him in The Dick Tracy. And I've seen him in Tootsie, Kramer vs. Kramer, Meet the Fockers, I Heart Huckabees, Wag the Dog, Hero, Marathon. God, I've seen a lot of Dustin Hoffman movies. Marathon Man, All the President's Men, Lenny, Straw Dogs, The Point, a TV movie from the 70s, because I'm old, and Little Big Man.
And like none of those were like that was an entire list of separate, unique titles. Joe didn't even put anything in there twice by accident. And I've heard him in Kung Fu Panda.
One of the few things out of his I have not seen.
Yep.
So he visits Dustin Hoffman. I'm sorry, Professor whatever, Dustin Hoffman. And Dusty is not that interested in the story, but he lets him talk and he goes, oh, all right, sure, whatever, buddy.
Right. He repeats the little did he know line, and Dustin Hoffman's like, oh, that.
Little did he.
I've written papers on the phrase little did he know.
Like, so the fuck what? Don't understand why that's so important. Little did he know. That is such a random fucking thing you can find in just about any sort of book. Big deal. So what? But for some reason, that really piques Dustin Hoffman's interest.
Yeah, and he's like, if you're still alive tomorrow, come here at 9:45.
Sure, why not?
So he gets on the bus home, and he's deep in thought. And then Anna Pascal gets on the bus. And he tries to talk to her, and she's like, I don't want to talk to this IRS auditor who's trying to audit me, throw me in jail, and also look at my tits.
But the bus bumps, and she falls into the seat near him, and so she's forced to interact with him. And he apologizes for not looking at her.
Like, you can just say, I don't want to talk to you.
That is
at
true.
all.
But then we wouldn't have a movie.
Hell, I was in line for the bus the other day at Port Authority, and I ran into a choir mate who was not in the choir that cycle, but she was coming to the concert, and we talked for a minute. And then when we got on the bus, I walked past her, I said, good to see you again. And then I went and sat the fuck down, because I don't actually want to talk to this person for that entire time. Not that they're not a lovely person, but they have their own fucking life they're living. I have like Sudoku to do on my phone. I've got my routine that is not talking to people the entire time. So you can just say to this relative stranger who is staring at your tits and wants to audit you and throw you in jail, no, I don't want to talk to you.
But then we wouldn't have a movie, George.
Right?
But he does apologize for the whole staring at the tits thing, which he could totally report him and have him at the very least taken off the case and get another auditor. Not that that would make her life any better. The thing is, It's very curious because I think, did she say she regularly takes that bus or not? Because I'm not sure. Because if she regularly takes the bus, you think she's the type of person, I don't know. Why the character, well, actually, this is a good question I wanted to put to you. Actually, it's in my notes and I forgot to bring it up, so I'll say it now. Is she a magic pixie girl? Because she really isn't that much to her except for her to fall in love with him. Beyond that, she doesn't really seem to have much. I mean, if you're a real person, yes, she owns a business, which is great, but we really don't learn that much about her beyond the fact that she bakes cookies.
Yes, Joe, she's a manic pixie dream girl. She's even slightly manic. Like, right when they meet, she throws whatever the dough she's working on at the wall.
That's right, she does. Like a real professional.
Oh, should we go over our text conversation that happened about 10 minutes ago into this movie?
I don't remember what our text conversation was.
Okay, so I started texting you because you had texted me.
Oh, that wasn't 10 minutes ago. That was much earlier.
I was 20 minutes into. I seem to always message you when I'm 20 minutes into a movie. So the other day, you texted me, real IRS agents must have lost their minds watching this movie.
Yeah, he does not act like an actual IRS agent, I don't think.
I said, I'm sure I'll know what that means when I watch it. And then you said, real authors should also hate this.
Yes. I stick by all that.
Today, I'm watching it, and I say, I'm 20 minutes into the movie. As I am neither a real IRS agent nor a real author, I'm kind of enjoying it. But real HR reps, real psychiatrists, and real bakers should also hate it. And real anarchists. But maybe not real literature professors, they might enjoy it. And you said, good Lord, I can't even with this, should be a lively discussion.
Because you said you've joined 20 minutes into you enjoying it. I'm like, really? Okay.
Kind of. I wasn't hating it yet. That didn't happen until the end.
Anyway, back to the bus. All right, so we both established.
So they're on the bus, and he apologizes very specifically for ogling her.
Yes, but I want to get back to real quick what we were saying, though. We both agree she is a magic dream girl. Maybe not slightly manic, although she's not that manic throughout the picture. But she is a dream girl because there's no real substance to her, right?
This looks solid to me, Joe.
There's no substance as in...
Yeah, no, I get it.
Okay.
Like, her most important character attribute is her capability of being attracted to him.
Yes.
That there's no reason to have. Except that the script says so.
Absolutely.
She accepts that apology for no good reason. She shouldn't.
No, she shouldn't.
And she doesn't usually take the bus.
Okay, then maybe that makes sense. Right, she's visiting someone or something. I forget what it is.
She's running late to something.
Yes. Because I wonder...
They have a joking thing about, going to an anarchy meetup.
Yes. And this is supposed to be some sort of meet. Well, not a meet cute, because they've already met, but some sort of cute conversation that I didn't believe. Anyway, so she invites him somewhere, and he goes, no, but thank you. He's proud of himself that he's flirted, and the narrator says, very happy to flirt, and he got off at the wrong bus stop.
Yep, which is funny, because the other day I got distracted. I started unfollowing pages on Facebook for some reason, and then I couldn't stop doing that. Like, I unfollowed shit I've been following since 2015. But I got involved doing that and then missed my stop by a bunch. So I got off and I had to walk home. I'm like, hey, extra steps there.
My missing stops, generally, I've had conversations with people on the train, on the bus, whatever, and I never miss my stop. It's usually if I'm reading a book and I'm really into it, then I totally will miss my stop. I'm like, oh, God. But in my case, usually I just have to take the train back. I don't have to walk. I mean, I guess it's an option.
Yeah.
Anyway, he goes back to his apartment after his conversation with the nice lady that he's going to fall in love with, or is fall in love with, or is already in love with. I don't know.
Yep.
He goes back home. He just fusses around with his goddamn watch and goes to bed.
And then next day, he's coming into the professor's office. He is watching a show that they interview authors on. That just occurred to me that that's the show that he watches, so that it makes sense that he's watching it later, even though they didn't really have to set that up.
No. Anyway, he starts talking to the professor. The professor is, again, very fascinated by his story now because he said that line, and that's the most important line in the world because it's something he didn't know or whatever the fuck it is.
All right, and so what the professor what Dustin Hoffman has decided is they are going to figure out who his narrator is by a process of elimination.
Well, no, not so much his narrator is what book he's in. Is he in a comedy or a tragedy?
Well, yeah, what kind of book is he in first? And so they Like,
although, why would they assume he's in the book? Why couldn't the narration be for audio or a podcast or a movie even?
Good questions, Joe. But they spend an awful lot of time on whether or not he is a golem.
Yes. And asking very random questions. Does he think he can fly, or does he have this and that sort of thing? To find out which character he could possibly be in this book.
Right. So it eliminates like fairy tales and comic books or whatever.
Yes,
right?
Exactly.
So then we go and it's raining outside and
we're back to the author now.
Right. And she's imagining that boy on a bike that she has to be writing at this point, causing her to drive her car off a bridge. And she's sitting next to Queen Latifah. Queen Latifah is very deliberately holding that huge umbrella so that it is covering her and not the author.
Yeah, I noticed that too. I mean, I have to wonder, was that a choice by the director? Is he implying something? Maybe the author really wants to get wet. I mean, she clearly is getting wet, so it's not like this is an accident, but it's just like, it's funny. Like, what is the point of this?
Yeah. And Queen Latifah's like, you should probably quit smoking. She's like, fuck you. Oh, actually, no, she does say something funny.
It's literature on the nicotine patch.
I don't need a nicotine patch, Penny. I smoke cigarettes.
Okay.
I was like, solid.
I'll allow that.
That's something I would have said when I smoked.
Anyway, we go back to the professor's office, and then again going over where Will Ferrell may or may not be, what book he's in. Oh my God, I did not notice this. Dustin Hoffman's not wearing any shoes.
No.
Why is he not wearing
like Lucifer in Constantine?
Oh, well, I don't think he's supposed to be like Lucifer.
I'm just remembering other unusually barefoot characters, Joe.
Is that supposed to show him as weird or something? Why would he not be wearing? I know it's not relevant or anything, but it must be, because why would they show him having no shoes on? And yet he's wearing a vest. He's professionally dressed.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well, whatever. Anyway, so they continue to talk about what books he's not in.
Right, and he's like, he might be in a comedy. He's like, try and develop that.
Yes.
So he runs with that idea, and he goes back to the bakery and has a notebook that he's got like a tally thing for comedy and tragedy. And he tries different lines out. Like, he's trying to figure out how to human. Like he was just dropped into a scenario, which kind of makes sense in this movie, but not really also.
Although the author, I guess, does give him, Emma Thompson does give him a background. Because I remember at one point, I forget where in the movie, he says that he once was engaged to someone.
He said that when he met Dustin Hoffman's character. He's like, yeah, I met her. She was an accountant and she left me for an actuary.
So in fact, he doesn't begin at that first point we see him, because he does have a past.
Right.
Apparently.
So after enough back and forth, she takes him back into her office and hands him her files so that he can do the audit.
And she makes sure the file's all messed up because she really wants to show him.
Yeah. So he gets to work doing his job.
And we see she's, the tramp betrayer is such a nice person because she's hugged someone at her cafe. And I guess it's a homeless dude she gets food to or something. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. That'll actually be important later. Although dubious. So yeah, 22% is how much she shorted the government by.
Right.
Very specifically. Speaking of baking, I am going to be attempting cinnamon raisin sourdough tomorrow.
Okay. Why cinnamon raisin dough?
I got to do something different. And I've done herby sourdough, and I've done like walnut sourdough. Oh God, the walnut stuff's great, but one of my technicians is allergic to nuts, so I can't like make that and bring it into work.
Okay.
But cinnamon raisin, I can do.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to try that. Plus, one of my technicians always has like cinnamon raisin bagels, and when he toasts them, it makes the place smell and always makes me want it. Okay. So I'm going to try and make some of that.
Sounds nice. Anyway, Will Ferrell's doing the auditing, and then the homeless guy comes by. Well, I assume he's homeless. Hey, there's something wrong with him. The way it's shot and everything clearly implies something's going on there. And then he goes to the same character, then goes to the bathroom. Is that relevant in any way? I have no idea, but it's in the movie.
No.
Anyway, Will Ferrell finishes auditing her books or something, and it's evening. He's coming downstairs, and she's there,
right, and
still baking.
Right. She offers him a cookie, and she sort of bullies him into eating a cookie. And then he's like, I got to pay you for the cookies. Otherwise, it's a gift and that's a bribe. And I can't do that.
Yes. And also, this is also another scene where we get a little bit of background because apparently his mother never baked, which is not that unusual. Neither of them. Well, I guess my mother did bake, but they made it seem unusual. Like, a woman who doesn't bake? You poor thing. You must have been deprived as a child.
Oh, it turns out she actually went to Harvard Law.
Oh, that's right. Yes. And we found out a little bit about her, right?
Yeah.
She's an attractive woman who went to Harvard Law and has her own business, but apparently no other man is interested in her. I'm not sure how that works.
No other man measures up to this very, very low, weird bar.
To this man who the script and the book that he's in specifically says is not an interesting person.
So he goes,
Okay, here's another question I really have for you, because this scene is particularly weird to me. He visits Dustin Hoffman again, and Dustin's in the locker room because he's part of his job.
He's a swim coach.
He's a lifeguard for people at the pool, because he also does that at the college. Fine, whatever. While Will Ferrell's talking to Dustin Hoffman about his issues with whether he's in a comedy or tragedy, in the background there are dudes showering. Why is that there?
I don't know, Joe. I don't know who that's for, or what it was trying to show. Or
it was showing a male ass, which again, I wonder, why is that there? I was like, did they do this just to get the rating up? Like they wanted a PG-13 or something? Or an R rating? I mean, why is it's so... I just could not understand. I found it really distracting because I couldn't understand why I'm seeing naked men all of a sudden.
I don't know, Joe.
And it plays no part in the plot whatsoever. So I'm like, what? It was just weird. And it was clearly a choice. You didn't have to have that there.
No, you didn't. So he tells Will Ferrell, hey, just don't do anything tomorrow. Do nothing that would normally be in your routine and see if the plot finds you. Right? So he does that. He stays home. He stays home and watches TV. He pees in a bottle to avoid going to the bathroom.
Which I also didn't understand. He didn't say he couldn't go to the bathroom. So I don't understand why he felt the need to just do that. I don't know where that came from. It just made no sense to me. When he says don't do anything, he didn't mean literally not. I mean, watching TV, that's doing something. Even laying down and sleeping is doing something. You know what I mean?
He's just watching nature shows on TV. He won't even change the channel off of whatever it just happens to be on because he would normally do that. He's like trying to not be him. Which it's weird. It's hard to not be yourself.
It just makes no sense.
The mail comes. He doesn't go look at it.
No, so he doesn't have a mailbox? Because the mail literally
mail
slides
slot on his door. Yeah.
In a building? That's an apartment building.
And then, so his Deus Ex Machina watch points to the window like, hey, you need to look at the window. Danger, danger, danger. Even though there's no actual danger. It's just like, don't do something you weren't going to do anyway. Don't get up and walk over to that side of the room because there's danger there. Because you're not going to do that. You're just going to sit here on the couch where nothing bad's going to happen to you. And we're going to see nothing bad happen to you. And then a giant piece of destruction machinery busts through the wall, grabs his TV, and brings it outside. He goes to the hole, yells outside, what the fuck are you doing? I live here. And they're like, and it turns out, oh, they're demolishing the wrong address, and they started at the middle of the building for some fucking reason.
Oh, I mean, I know I've already asked this, but I again, and this stuff like this keeps taking me out of the movie. Did she write that, or is that really happening? Who is controlling this right now? And they're talking to him back and forth. So did she write that dialogue? Is the author creating this?
We know that this professor that he's talking to right now writes fan letters to the author that is narrating these events. Is she writing things for her fan to say to her character?
Oh my God, that's a good question. You're right. Yeah. I mean, I know the film probably written, you weren't supposed to think about it that hard, but for me, it was just distracting. Because, all right, let me establish a couple of things for you. Because I've read and I've seen movies where a character comes alive and leaves a movie or leaves a book or whatever. Mm-hmm. But they very much establish, all right, like okay, I'll give you one example. There's a movie called Purple Rose of Cairo where a character comes alive and walks out of the film. So you know immediately the film, that's where all those characters and those other characters also come alive as well. They're all like, hey, please, we can't get out. but that one character does get out. So we establish that. So we know that his interaction with everyone else is supposed to be in real time. Okay, so that's not confused. It's like, there's no, like, hey, someone else writing this? No. He is that character, and these are real people. Or there was another thing I want to establish also, because again, she's supposed to be this great author, and yet she's writing a story about a guy who's very boring and dies at the end. I don't know why that's an interesting book. There was a short story, I believe it was by Hemingway, probably more than Hemingway's probably not the only one done this, but that's the one I read, called The Short and Happy Life of whatever the character's name was. And it is about a man who's very unhappy about his life, and then we know at the end of the story, it establishes he's going to die. But we have a whole backstory and a whole bunch of series of stuff that happens that makes us, we're interested in who this person is and why he changes before he dies and why he's happy about his death because his life has changed. All in a short story. I don't get that from this character. I don't know why this is a masterpiece, as I mentioned. Like, why is this such a great book? Again, she tells me this is a story of a man who wakes up one day and someday he's going to die. Well, literally, that's all of us. We all wake up and one day we're all going to die. So why is that? Why am I reading that book? Sorry, I don't know.
Good question, Joe. Here is where, I don't know, the movie gets slightly less boring.
Believe that's what sure.
You were right. This narrator might very well kill you, so I humbly suggest that you just forget all this and go live your life.
That's the inciting incident for the second half of the movie.
It's true, but couldn't he have just said that from the very beginning? I mean, literally, again,
okay, let's not dwell on could he have said this. Let's just talk about what did happen, not what didn't.
Well, I will say that's what did happen, okay? He tells me you can live your life, something he could have said from the very beginning, because what does he say later in the film? Or maybe, I don't remember what part he says it, but he says eventually everybody dies, and oh no, he does say it later, everybody dies. So yeah, okay. The fact that it's narrated or not, you're still gonna die someday anyway, so I don't get it. I'm sorry, I don't get it.
Okay, so that forces Will Ferrell's character to decide what does he actually want out of life. So, number one, his apartment's uninhabitable now, so he goes and lives with his buddy from work, Dave.
Who has a really nice house, I must say.
He does, yeah. And they have a nice dinner conversation.
Yeah, he's not eating alone, which they mentioned in the earlier part of the film. He's no longer eating by himself.
Then he goes, completely out of character, goes to a guitar store and buys himself a sky blue used Fender Stratocaster.
And they also talked, like the watch. They have thoughts and ideas.
Yeah. The narrator personifies that guitar. Then we jump to the hospital where Author Lady and Queen Latifah, Author Lady is trying to be inspired as to how she is going to kill off this character, because that is the hallmark of her books, is character lives, then dies.
Which is, okay, she goes to, for number one, and they actually do say it in the film, that they probably wouldn't be allowed to just walk around like this.
Right. And like a nurse is like, the fuck are you doing?
Yes. But why would this, why would this inspire?
But also this author asks questions in a way that are like, nobody would do that. Like even an author at the end of her rope wouldn't do that. That's just...
Yeah, some of the questions are like, where are the dead bodies? How do people die? I mean, like...
Can I go where the dying people are? Like everybody here is probably going to get better. Can I go to where they're not?
Like, this person... I mean, I don't really clearly understand the Emma Thompson's character, but you think she have enough mental capacity to go like, this is an invasion of other people's privacy. This is a very personal moment for them. They're dying, they're sick, they're not well, and I'm invading them. And it just never, no one says that to her. Even Queen Latifah. You think Queen Latifah's character would go like, hey, this is really inappropriate. This is a personal moment for a lot of these people. They're suffering, they're hurting. You trying to finish a goddamn book. Let's not do this.
Yeah. So we see his relationship with his roommate sort of deepening, and he is practicing a lot on that guitar.
Yep. And also he's been, he's still working, but he's been not laid off. What's the word I'm looking for? He's on a break. He's on
vacation.
Yeah, he's on vacation. They gave him a break because they thought he was going nuts. So yeah, so he stays home, works on his guitar. Or not home. Well, he's home now with Tony Hale's character. And he's going to movies and stuff, and he's walking.
He's going to movie. He goes to a theater where they're showing Monty Python Meaning of Life.
Oh, I did not catch that. Okay. Well, that makes sense.
they're at the would you like a mint? It's wafer thin scene.
Oh, you're right. I didn't even pick that up. And also, he's go back to Tony Hale's spot, which again, he has a really nice, I like that elevator, that outside elevator. You see, like, oh, it's cool.
So he can't sleep. He somehow finds, they do a pun. And it is cute. It is kind of cute. And it's very specifically the kind of thing you could do to try and
who's they?
Will Ferrell's character brings a box of flowers to Maggie Gyllenhaal's character. Flowers spelled Flours.
So flower.
The kinds of things that you would bring to a baker.
Yes.
And this wins her over more.
Wins over that night. She invites him back to her place, for God's sake.
Yep. And he says very clearly, I want you. And I didn't think about what else to say after that. So they take a bus back to her place.
Do you think that's what I should do, George? Because, I'm not seeing anybody. Should I just buy some flour, walk up to some hot bakery lady and go like, I want you? Do you think that will work?
They have an existing relationship before that happens,
That's
Joe.
true.
I wouldn't recommend cold flouring a baker.
But once I establish a relationship, then I should buy her flour.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, if you bring me a box of flowers, I might fall in love with you.
You're easy, though. You're a tramp.
I am. So they're at her place, and they're
having a quiet
talking and having a moment, and she has a guitar just sitting around, and she's like, I play the guitar terribly.
And he picks it up and starts playing, and that gets her all wet.
I mean, he tries to not play it, but I guess the movie needed to pad its runtime. It was almost 2 hours. He didn't actually have to do that.
No.
He could have just played the song. So he plays a song, and she hears it from the kitchen, and then just, like, she turns the sink off, but there's still flowing happening.
Mm-hmm.
And she, like, starts climbing on him on the couch. Like, this is an instant panty drop.
So maybe I should learn how to play a guitar.
That's not a no.
Anyway, you're right. So they start making out and stuff, and they're taking off their clothes. And
they go all the way. Like,
okay, so, and I know I sort of brought this up, but again, the narrator knows this has happened. She narrates that they're in bed together. How does she know this?
Yep. Good question, Joe. And he goes back to the presser, and he's like, the lady who hated me is falling in love with me.
Right. So does he now think it's a comedy? I forget what he's characterized it as. But anyway, so they're talking, chatting away, and then suddenly on the TV is
Katie Eiffel, the author lady, and like he's like, no, that's the voice in my, that's her, and the guy's like, that's her? I write her fucking fan letters.
Yep.
She's my favorite author ever.
Yep.
But she doesn't like it. Like, she kills somebody in every book, so you're a fucking goner. But also, like, she's off the grid. You'll never find her. And he's like, what's her publishing company? And he's like, here's her publishing company. And he takes that book and fucking fucks off with it.
Yep. Goes to the publishing company. Meanwhile, we cut back to the author, and she's still thinking of ways to kill people for some reason. I don't know why. What an uninteresting writer. If you're writing a book and we always can predict the ending, how good are you? Good
question, Joe. But she sees an apple fall off a cart into the street, and she's like, oh, I know, I'm going to kill him now. And she comes home, and Queen Latifah is setting up a bunch of index cards on the floor. And it's like, I guess I don't need an assistant anymore. So Will Ferrell goes to the publishing company, and they're like, we can't just give you her address, but I can give you her phone number?
No.
For some reason? No, I can't give you shit. I can't give you anything. He tries to like lie and say, hey, she's my sister, or we're getting engaged or something. No, they don't buy anything. But he's like, she lives in Chicago, and I work for the IRS. So he does something incredibly illegal, unethical.
And illegal.
Yep. And gets her phone number from the IRS database.
I mean, technically, this is stalking.
Yep.
You definitely could get in trouble for this, even back in 2006.
But all the phones in the office are down. All the cell phones aren't working. And
why was that important?
Because he had to run here for some reason. But here's the thing. isn't she narrating that he is stalking her?
Right. Does she not know that he's doing... Well, apparently she doesn't know that he's doing this because we'll see later.
Like, what did she write immediately before she writes the words, "The phone rings"?
Who knows? Good question, George. I don't know.
Because she is really, really surprised that her phone starts ringing. Every time she writes the words, "the phone rings,"
but
the phone rings.
Yeah, she figures it out really fast.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like she already knows this is going to happen. Because you think, if the phone rang and I was talking about the phone, I wouldn't think, oh, there must be a connection. Why is the phone? I mean, I just go like, oh, the phone's ringing.
Yep. So he introduces himself and she's like, what? This is a joke? No. This is all the things about me. And so like she gives him her address and he comes to visit. And Queen Latifah's just taken in stride like, okay.
Yeah, you're a fictional character.
This is what's happening.
Sure, it happens every day.
And she sees him and she's like, Jesus Christ, he's exactly what I wrote. Because I wrote in the book, he looks exactly like Will Ferrell. Yes. And it's fucking Will Ferrell right here.
So
right down to your squeaky shoes.
Yep. Which again begs the question, okay, so he's in there with her, they're talking. Is she not writing what he's saying?
Right. Good question, Joe. And they quickly connect over the professor. And she's like, I love his letters. And he doesn't say, then why don't you fucking answer them, you goddamn sociopath? This guy's basically in love with you. And you really like what he writes to you. Why don't you encourage that or get to know him better instead of being a fucking weird-ass hermit? And she's like, I can't promise you that I'm not going to kill you, but I can give you the outline of the rest of the book so that you can decide what's going to happen. And Queen Latifah's like, let him read it. And she's like, yeah, okay, I'll let you read it. So he tries and he can't. So he brings it to Dustin Hoffman's character and is like, you have to read this and tell me what I need to do to not die. So Dustin Hoffman's character is like, sure, okay, I'll do that. Now we see that one black lady and we see the dad launching his kid on a bike. And he spends one more night in...
well, remember, we cut then back to Will Ferrell.
Right. He spends another night with Maggie Gyllenhaal. And then he goes the next day to visit the professor, and the professor's like, no, motherfucker, you got to die. Otherwise, this book is a piece of shit. You have to die for this book to make sense. So that's just it. Your life is over.
Otherwise, it's not a good book. Which I argue it's already not a good book. All right, stop for a second. I got to think about this.
No, you don't.
She does not write the Maggie Gyllenhaal character, right? He's just this uninteresting man who one day dies.
I don't know that.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. So
this movie does not give you what you need to answer these questions.
But again, begs the question: what did Dustin Hoffman read? What is going on in this? I mean, it's a full book.
He read the outline.
It's a full outline for a book. What is the event from his life, and where we first meet him in that bedroom, where we talk about his uninteresting life, to the point where he dies? What is the in between in that book? Because he doesn't meet Maggie Gyllenhaal in the book. So
unless he does,
unless she's written right, because otherwise, what? I want to know what made this a masterpiece other than he dies in there. What makes it... Killing off a character doesn't make it a masterpiece.
Joe, this movie doesn't give you what you need to answer that question. I'm telling you that now so that we don't have to dwell on it.
I'm trying to work it out, man.
Don't. It's because there's nothing to work out. It doesn't give you that.
Oh, I'm so confused.
So he goes home and he's like, I can't die, but whatever. So you'll live forever in the book, except for when the book ends and you die. So he actually summons up the gumption and he rides the bus way, way, way everywhere until he's finished reading it. And we see like the author having this existential moment, like, I kill nice people all the time. Were they real people? And she's kind of like, did I do that to real people in the real world? Like, did this happen every time? And that's a good question, Joe.
Yeah, good question, Emma.
And he finds her and he's like, I read it and I agree. You can kill me. It's fine.
Yeah.
My life. My life will. Like if I was writing, I'd say, mortality is what gives life its meaning anyway. So yeah, sure. I guess I had a better run than most. So he's like giving her permission to kill him off. Mm-hmm. So he goes and he finishes up some shit at work, so other people aren't going to get left with his issues. Then he goes and he spends one more night with Maggie, and he's like, by the way, you give a lot of food for free to the homeless, at least 22% of what your income is. You could claim that as a charitable donation, and then you're in the clear.
Which would not be true.
I'm not sure it's not true.
No, because
but I'm pretty sure it's true now that it wouldn't be true.
Yeah, but also because remember, it's not so much she also owes that, but she would owe back taxes, you know what I mean? There'd be interest on that. So she could write off this year is 22%, but she still has some back tax she has to also make up for. So it actually wouldn't be true.
So now he knows that he's supposed to die today, but what he knows now that he didn't know before, that he would know now because he read the outline, is that, remember that pin in his watch died, so he got a time from somebody? Mm-hmm. Well, that time was 3 minutes early. So he's at the bus stop on time, not at the last minute, which means when that kid on a bike falls down into the path of the bus, he is there to be a hero and grab the kid, but not get out of the way himself. And his watch, takes the blunt of the
well, don't get ahead. Initially, he just gets hit by the bus. We'll get into what I'm.
I mean, he gets hit by the bus, yeah. But
here's the thing.
Like and we see as this is happening, author lady is like she hasn't finished typing the word dead, right? And so the black lady we saw was the bus driver.
Yes.
And the kid we saw was the kid on the bike. And Maggie,
I know you don't characterize his race. Black lady, but somehow not the white boy.
That's actually fair, Joe. That's a fair criticism. Yes. That is some fucking unconscious subtle racism on my part. So yeah, that black lady and the white kid on the bike. But she hasn't finished typing the word dead. So Maggie wakes up and then she goes into the professor's office and is like, I didn't kill him. Here's what I wrote instead. And he's like, the rest of the book doesn't make sense now. And she's like, I know, I'm going to change the rest of the book. And they're like, it won't be as good a book. And she's like, yeah, but I won't be killing this dude.
Which, okay, sure.
So, and then we go to Will Ferrell in the hospital. He's like, got 2 broken arms, and it turns out his watch took the brunt of the impact, and a piece of it is lodged in an artery, and if they move it, he's going to die. So he's got to live with a part of that watch in him forever. Poetic, I guess.
Is it?
It's very, very Iron Man.
Yes, it is Iron Man. But I don't think that's what they were going for.
And
Maggie Gyllenhaal goes to visit him in the hospital, and they're all very happy that he's alive.
Yeah. And then that's basically it.
Yeah, I mean, we see that Tony Hale's character, that before he thought he was going to die, Will Ferrell got him, because he mentions earlier that he wanted to do space
camp. Going to space camp, so we got him like a brochure to go to adult space camp.
Yes. And we see the little boy is now okay because he not responsible for the death of Will Ferrell, and his dad gives him a hug. I do have to wonder, they're going to work, right? So it's in the morning. Why is this kid not in school? Why was he riding his bike? Was he riding his bike to school? I don't know what was going on there.
I don't know either, Joe. But that's the end of the movie.
Well, yeah, and then we see Dustin Hoffman swimming for some reason.
Yeah.
All right. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I didn't enjoy this. I don't think it works. It's not. I thought the movie was dumb. And like I said, I'll watch a dumb movie. I mean, God knows. We saw, what was was it Billy Madison?
Mm-hmm.
That was a really stupid movie, but you know what? I laughed a lot, so I didn't care. If you can be, or even David Lynch's Eraser, which is ridiculous in its own way, but I enjoyed it. I like the weirdness of it. This wasn't weird enough for me, and it just left me with too many questions more than answers. So I found it very frustrating to sit through. That's why 20 minutes in, while you were enjoying it, 20 minutes into me, I was like, I don't understand how much power this narrator has, because one minute she knows all this stuff about him, and then she doesn't, and yet somehow these other people aren't affected, and yet she must write them, because otherwise she doesn't have a story of him dying. So, whatever. Anyway, I've already said my piece. It didn't work for me. What about you?
This is, I don't usually let my opinion of the movie influence whether I think it works or not, but it's gonna on this one.
Okay.
I could have forgiven the weird that was there and all the unanswered questions and the ambiguity about who is controlling this fucking universe if the movie had the balls to actually kill off Harold Crick.
Okay.
But it flinched. The movie stared that outcome in the face and then fucking flinched. And for that, I say, fuck you, movie. It made the rest of the film not worth it.
Well, there was definitely something very Hollywood ending about having him live.
Right. And it shouldn't have been. It should have been a very unique ending for a unique brand of fuckery that this movie was. Like, it should have followed through with that uniqueness and been like, bam, he's dead and I'm going to make money off this fucking book. Should have been like her collecting the check from royalties while Maggie Gyllenhaal cries at his grave. Like, that would have been how this movie should have fucking ended. But it didn't. It flinched, and I say, fuck you, you're a coward, you don't work anymore.
I don't disagree. I think it probably, I don't know if it would have worked for me even if he did die at the end, but I think that would have made it a stronger movie. I do agree with that would have made more sense. Although I'm still confused by the fact that she says the book is about interconnectivity. But we really don't find out about anybody but him. He's the main character, and it's the only character she seems to be interested in. No one else. Like, how is this boy affected by the fact that he may have been responsible for the death of someone? How is this bus driver affected when she hits someone? We see them crying and upset, but that's it. They're not really dug into, which I get it. We have like a 4-hour movie if we got into that. Okay, fine. But still, you introduced that. I didn't. It's your movie. You introduced these characters, and it's your responsibility then to develop them or make me explain to me why I should care or how this works exactly. So,
yep.
Yeah, it would make it a long move by getting into it, but at the same time, those questions are there. They're legitimate questions. How much control does she have over these other peripheral characters who are responsible for his death? They play a big significant. It's so significant that he dies, so we really should know more about these other people. Meanwhile, we're finding about this dumb romance that I don't buy for 1 minute. I don't think Maggie Gyllenhaal's character would be interested in this man who we're specifically told is boring anyway. Although, yes, he plays a guitar later, and he's like, but I don't know. He said something. Okay,
Joe, we are 1 minute away.
All right, I said my piece.
Yep. And the 1 minute away is from the runtime of the movie on the recorded length of what we have so far. The episode won't be that long because we edit it, but we have a long-standing rule that we haven't actually had to come up against in a long time to keep our recording time under the length of the movie.
Well, okay, I said my piece. So anyway, this was a Patrons Reward episode for our currently longest patron, Aaron. Aaron has been supporting the show since 2020 on the TV Guide tier. Every year he gets to pick a movie for us, and this was his choice for 2025. Aaron, thank you for supporting the show, and we hope to keep deserving your support. Now, George, what's up next?
Next week, we'll be talking about A History of Violence from 2005.
Oh, the year before. We're not getting very far out of our years.
It happens.
So I guess after this episode, I'm Joe Dixon. Thanks for listening.
And I'm George Romacka. Thanks for listening indeed, because if a podcast drops and there's no one around to hear it, it's just another collection of ones and zeros that doesn't matter.
Thanks again, Aaron.
And we must remember that all these things, the nuances, the anomalies, the subtleties, which we assume only accessorize our days, are in fact here for a much larger and nobler cause. They are here to save our lives. I know the idea seems strange, but I also know that it just so happens to be true. And so it was. A wristwatch saved Harold Crick.
Okay.
You've been listening to Does This Still Work? Produced by Joe Dixon and George Ramaka.
This content is CAN credentialed, which means you can report instances of harassment, abuse, or other harm on their hotline at 617-249-4255 or on their website at creatoraccountabilitynetwork.org.
The hosts can be reached via social media, email, or the contact page at dtswpod.com. Be good to yourself and others, because that still works.
People got to stop needing cops and ambulances in Harlem, man.
It's so weird. During the day, I don't hear a peep.
Dear Amy, I'm a 27-year-old gay male. I have been dating this guy for 2 months, and we have gotten into several disagreements. All right, dear Amy, I am deeply in love with the woman of my dreams, and I feel so grateful to have found my soulmate. Dear Amy, my son is getting married and has asked us to host the groomsmen for lunch before his wedding ceremony. Yep, well, I did start reading a book.
I'm also trying to read a book, but mine is fiction.